Today, we are having a candid conversation about masculinity, attraction, and the fine line between personal preference and internalized homophobia. What we want you to get out of this conversation is a better understanding of how attraction is actually shaped by conditioning, and to honestly reflect on the beliefs you carry about masculinity and femininity. So, I can acknowledge that attitudes are changing. Absolutely. And I think it's a great thing. However, it is still out there, this mask for mask mentality. You might hear people say, oh, I'm not into flamboyant gays or guys, or I'm only into masculine, muscular, manly men. This is very common in gay apps and in general in the gay vernacular. Now, sometimes if you're like me, you might question someone on it because I get kind of curious when I hear things like that. And they'll say something like, I can't help what I'm attracted to. But it raises a bigger question. When a gay man says he prefers masculine men, is that simply attraction or is there something deeper going on? So I'll be transparent right from the start for myself because I'm sure a lot of y'all listening have talked to me on apps and seen me out there. I am attracted to masculine presenting men myself. And I am a masculine presenting man myself. And that's been true since the first moment I felt same sex attraction. I've always been into masculine presenting men. And so this episode is not about pretending that attraction doesn't exist or even trying to police who people are drawn to. Because, yes, attraction is personal and we don't consciously choose what arouses us. Nevertheless, you cannot deny the impact of culture and social conditioning on what we value, on what we consider attractive. And this is regardless of sexual orientation. Now, when you step back specifically and looking at gay culture specifically, an interesting pattern emerges even today. And that's masculinity is not just attractive, it is status, it is admired, it is respected, and it is still, even to this day, positioned as the quote unquote ideal version of gayness. Now, this isn't spoken directly, perhaps, but it is subtly out there for all to see. And on the flip side of that is femininity can sometimes be seen as something people want to distance themselves from. So there's maybe a hesitation to have expressive mannerisms or to flail or flare or have a way of speaking that might be perceived as feminine. Or perhaps we quietly judge the guy wearing nail polish. Or perhaps you cringe when you hear people who sound gay. Which brings us to a term that gets thrown around a lot in having these kinds of conversations about masculinity and femininity: internalized homophobia. Internalized homophobia does not necessarily mean that you hate gay people. Most of us don't consciously feel that way anyway. It's not a conscious feeling or thought like that. What it means is that the messages that we have absorbed growing up about masculinity, about femininity, about what it means to be a man, about what it means to act like a man, can and do influence how we want others to see us and how we see other men. And sometimes it sounds like I'm gay, but I'm not a flamer like those gays. Or it might be placing a higher value on guys who look and sound straight passing. And then sometimes it hides behind that word preference. And so today we're unpacking all of this. There's a lot here to unpack, and I'm really happy we're finally having this discussion. We're going to tackle this in three parts. One, I want to first define what we mean when we talk about masculinity. What exactly are we talking about? Once we cover that, then I want to look into how internalized homophobia actually shows up in the real world. And finally, we're going to answer the big question in the title: where is that line actually between preference and internalized homophobia? I want to normalize it here before we begin, because if you grew up in a world where being gay was stigmatized, and I assume most of us did, it's called Earth, it would actually be strange not to carry some kind of internalized homophobia. Okay, so got to normalize it right from the jump. This is not a personal failure. It is a predictable byproduct of growing up gay in a straight world. Our jobs are simply to acknowledge it, see it, and course correct when it happens. Okay. This topic can therefore make people feel very defensive or uncomfortable. So if you're listening and your back is already up against the wall, good. Stay tuned. That's a good thing. It usually means that we're touching on things that perhaps you've been avoiding, maybe consciously or unconsciously. And just remember to always approach that defensiveness with curiosity. We are not here to shame you or to even try to change who or what you're attracted to. We're simply here to better understand the cultural forces that shape attraction.